We got a super from Stephen Williams who said, speaking of that non-WoW game, do you stream that one mysterious video game? I played FF14 since 1.0 launch. Would love to watch you suffer. I'm not suffering. I am playing it and currently not streaming it because we don't really have the setup and time to do a whole bunch of gameplay streaming. So that's mostly the answer to that. That said, I am playing with my brain turned on and I'm taking notes. There will be video content covering FF14.
Yep.
Sandrax joined as a new member. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandrax.
Yeah, cheers. I think 2 more supers before we hop into the news. One of them, actually, let's do it. It's from Alex Beam. He said this. I tried FF last week, quit after 20 minutes when I was forced to run around talking to lollies instead of kill stuff. Made me appreciate Exile's reach/WoW.
So I will, okay.
The furnace of Matt's heart is growing hot.
No, I'm just trying to think of how to specifically address the lollies part, because if...
Lalafell are a bit fucking uncomfortable.
I feel like saying Lalafell or lollies is kind of misunderstanding of the entire thing, but I've been so deep in Weebland for so long that I don't know how to speak to humans anymore on that front.
Yeah, there's that thing of like, you show a regular person Food Wars, and they will just say, this is straight up, I don't want to say the word in case a bot demonetized us. It begins with PEAD. Maybe people would think that, they look at Food Wars. Yes. The girl with the blue hair is like 13.
She's
the camera, was she 13? Is she 14, 15?
Older than that. They're like late high schoolers, like university teacher.
I thought they were younger than that in that show.
No, they're like 16 to 18.
Okay, they certainly look...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She looks too young for how the camera treats her, but it's that weird thing of like, if you've been in Weebland forever and you've seen enough anime things, you're like, well, this is just how it's done over there. Yeah. Whatever, I don't notice it. But I feel like if you get somebody who's, been just all in the Western content, they're going to see some of those norms and be like, whoa, what? These characters look like little bizarre children. In my thing that I know, say Lord of the Rings, the hobbits... Yes, they are child-sized, but they don't look like fucking children.
Yeah, Lalafell are weird because they're potato toddlers, but they actually go out of their way to sort of destroy that, because I don't think I've met a single Lalafell in game that acts like a child. Very specifically, like a lot of the Lalafell and like Ul'dah and stuff are just grizzled old bastards.
Yeah.
And it's the same as gnomes. It's just they look a little bit more like toddlers instead of weird demon babies. Like gnomes look like weird demon adults strapped onto tiny bodies, whereas Lalafell just look like walking potatoes. In a sense.
Yeah. So I can totally understand people seeing Lalafell being a bit creeped out or weirded out and sort of quitting. I guess for whatever it's been for me, I've been like, well, I know what this is in this world. If I wouldn't necessarily art direct it in the same way. But that said, who am I to really say much to the team that has done Final Fantasy XIV? Yep. Now, the other thing from Alex, and this is something I'll get into when I talk about my own impressions, but Alex said, I was forced to run around talking to lollies instead of kill stuff. Dude, seriously, read the fucking quest text and engage with it like it's an actual video game. World of Warcraft literally teaches you to appreciate and play and enjoy games the wrong fucking way. Yeah. Because WoW is so fucking hyper everything towards that sort of endgame style of content. And WoW's narrative content is like so based on walls of text that it basically trains you to do what like legit we all do playing WoW, which is just, wee, I've went through the zone and the stuff is done, now I'm raiding. Whereas CNFF, like in the same way that if you're playing, say, Mass Effect 2 or something, you will have your shooty bang bang bit, but then you'll have your slower character bit. I think the point with Final Fantasy XIV is the slower character bit is them establishing stuff so that it will pay off later. So like in Gridania, the zone that I started off in, like it was a slow start. And I did have to sit there reading some dialogue that I wasn't super engaged in because at that stage, didn't know the characters, didn't really know the situation, didn't know the world. But then all of that stuff did come together at the end of the initial Gridania story. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I'll do a proper segment on the post-Gridania stuff for me. But I'd say don't play Final Fantasy XIV like it is World of Warcraft. Play it like it's a video game. And that sounds inherently pretty mean to WoW. But like, I suppose it is in a way, isn't it?
Yep.
It's just that thing, in WoW, like WoW players are so sometimes not gamers. Like all they do is WoW, all they know is MMOs. Yep. But like in the same way that people, it's like you send somebody to play an RPG and then that person skips all of the cutscenes and all of the dialogue and just wants to focus on the content, and then they have a bad time, you're like, well, yeah, you played the game wrong. That's not how it's done. It's not the done thing for video games. That said, A Realm Reborn is slower paced and all of that stuff as compared to the expansions. And as for the other things, like Exile's Reach, I think Exile's Reach is like really good, but man, if we're saying that it's like incredible stuff, the bar's pretty low.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess with Exile's Reach, like it is more of a simple, you've got Lego, you've got Meccano, or is it? You've got your Bionicles, then you got your Mega Blocks and your Duplo, where, Exile's Reach, narratively speaking, is way more Duplo, Mega Blocks. It's like very, very simple. Very simple. You don't even need to read the quest text. The characters doing their little speech bubbles is enough. But in FF, it's like you do actually have to see what's up with the characters, see what's up with the story, so you can actually learn the world and shit.
Yep. And it's all paid off remarkably well.
That's it, yeah.
And it's a case where if you give it a fraction of your attention, it will pay you back in more than kind by like everything it tells you. You can tell the writers remember everything they've put on paper and want to pull back to it. Like, I'd love to see the whiteboards in their offices. They would be like, I'd imagine there's like half of Square Enix's office. It's just someone tracking different characters across. Like, the room is like ceiling to floor, whiteboard, just lines everywhere.
Yeah.
Like that, that meme of the board with all the pins across it from Always Sunny. Like that, but for characters, because it's nuts.
I guess it's like, this is not a Zoomer game.
No, it is. I don't even want to call it a boomer game, because I can't. The idea of boomers too ingrained with man sitting on a ride-on lawnmower in a kind of Monster Ultra Paradise, but it's definitely not. How do I put this? It's very much the way I think Blizzard got so much wrong with the idea of gameplay first, where people think, oh well, that's not gameplay, that's reading. You're like, nah. It's almost the same argument as, well, a visual novel's not a game. You're like, fuck off, you're wrong.
With all of these things, I'm beginning to just take the view of words are almost useless. One of the best words to use, I think, is experience. Yeah. What is the experience of this bit of software, and whether that is the form of a VN or an RPG that's a bit VN-ish, or various different types of games. The bit that ultimately matters is what it does inside you. That's the experience of the game, I guess.
Yeah. Turns out reading is gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're... And, it's another thing with FF specifically, all of those things, it's like dialogue between your character and the other character. Yeah. Rarely... Like, it can feel a bit like shit's just being blurted out at you, but at least with, like, how it's written in the framing and the actual process of you clicking through the dialogue versus just click an NPC, psh, wall of text, it feels far more like dialogue. And I think that means that you feel far more like your character, and that doing those things as your character feels far more like gameplay, even though it's reading. Because, as you said, gameplay first. We've got to take an experience first understanding, I think. Oh, Alex says, did a follow-up super saying, for what it's worth, I do request too many proper nouns in the beginning for a brand new player to know what is what.
Completely fair.
I just don't think it's meant for me. Yeah, how many yalms between here? Yalms is like
it's
meters.
Just yards and meters. Like,
yeah.
It's a very old English style, and I think that once you get used to how everyone speaks, it really engages you in the world, especially with their voice actors from Heavensward onwards.
Yes.
Where they get a bunch of like really British voice actors to do it, and you're like, okay, oh, this is class.
So I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but it's like anytime you see a fantasy movie or a fantasy thing, and you have basically American English being spoken. Yeah. And it feels like really odd and jarring because it's like, why are you talking like modern people from the TV? The setting and WoW sometimes does suffer from this as well. Yeah. It's like the setting you're from totally does not feel like modern, whatever. I mean, I just watched The Witch, which is entirely in like 1600s English. By the way, Witch is... See all those people downvoting The Witch because it's not like a big shock horror movie? Nah, Witch is fucking awesome. Great movie. Yeah, no, so fucking smart. Yeah. I mean, I wish they changed more. Not worth getting into.
Yeah, no, I will say to follow up, the amount of proper nouns, yes, it's very overwhelming. I found that jarring too. It's really overwhelming because it's just like, but I think a lot of that is trying not to treat the player like they're literally new in the world. because you are just a kind of newbie adventurer.
Yeah.
But eventually all those proper nouns will mean stuff, and you'll know what the world is, what places are called, because everything mentioned you probably go to eventually. Everyone mentioned you speak to or meet eventually, and it's all just kind of like, it's a case of if you stick with it, I think it will be for you eventually. It's just, it depends on what kind of player you are. There's likely going to be, like, there's either no wall, like there is for someone like me, who's fully engaged with that, or there'll be a very, very, very thick wall based on your history.
I'm a minor wall.
Yeah, and if you can get through it, I promise, like, paradise lies on the other side of that wall. It's just a very, very big wall.
Yeah.
That's how I'd put it, I think.
I mean, so there's Rebel here. I almost read your name is Red Bull, which, but you said in FF, I feel like I belong in the world. My character suffers, struggles, has joy, hope. In WoW, I'm just a hitman with plot armor.
Yep.
Thus far, even though my character is a random cat girl that I made a year ago because I was trying to get a character made in Zodiac really quick because it wouldn't let you make a character unless it was 4 a.m.
Yep.
So even though my character is not really what I would normally choose or anything like that, yeah, in my first few hours, I definitely feel that. And so much of that is because of the manner in which they handle dialogue with NPCs.
Yeah.
And that it feels more conversational than WoW stuff does. I think that's the main part of it. Because it's certainly not in the gameplay. Which so far for me has been circle strafe, use heavy shot. Sort of spam your keyboard. Yeah. Like right now it is entirely experience, not, rigid view of gameplay. That is getting me in that game.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest barrier. You don't actually play the game as a gameplay focused game for quite some time.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's it. So it's closer to what aspects of WoW felt like in the past.
Yeah.
But it is extremely different from modern World of Warcraft, and I feel like if you're super used to modern World of Warcraft, it is just going to be really jarring. Because, to me, initially I was like, oh, I prefer the WoW art style. Oh, the anti-aliasing in this engine is awful. Oh, the movement doesn't feel as responsive. Because, my initial reaction was, totally the reaction of a WoW player.
Yeah.
To the point where, until, honestly, a few months ago, I was pretty much just I was basically the same as Alex. I was tried it, not for me, doesn't feel good as a game. It just, for me, took that little bit of everyone around me screaming, play Final Fantasy. That's what gave me enough fuel to push through my gripes to actually find the game.
Yeah, I can imagine, the sheer, evangelism from FF14 players can seem daunting and almost cult-like to people who haven't played it or, have an aversion to it. But it's because people really, really believe in the experience that it gets you in the end.
Yeah, it seems it's that way.
Yep.